Society. Even when we as a people did not know where we were going, Curtis musically led the way. One of my favorite parts in one of his songs said, "People must prove to the people a better day is coming for you and for me." Oh yeah, yeah. He said, if you had a choice of colors, which one would you choose, my brothers?
Good evening and welcome to the Village Drum, and I'm your host, Michael Matthews. Miss Holder, you know, as well, she's very busy with dealing with the school system and everything, so I'm standing in for her. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about politics and a little bit about some things that are going on. As you know, Newark had their election for Senator. You know, Corey ran for state senate, and now soon we'll have the election for mayor. So there's another election going on, but we're looking outside of Newark this time. I'm the kind of person that looks I look outside the box. And we're looking at Hillside. And tonight I have a candidate with me that I had the pleasure of meeting. And the name, I hope I pronounce her name correctly. I hate messing up people's name. But it's Lalisa J. Williams. And she's the candidate for council of Hillside. Good evening, Mrs. Williams. How you doing?
Good evening, and thank you so much for having me. But you absolutely said my name perfect. Thank you.
Okay. That's good. I'm glad.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about, so you're a resident of Hillside.
I am, yes, for the past 21 years.
21? Mm-hmm. So you grew up in Hillside?
Oh, well, I only wish I was that young, but thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. No, I didn't actually. I moved to Hillside. I was already an adult woman, and out of all the places in New Jersey where I could have chosen to move, my husband and I, we decided to move to Hillside, New Jersey, mostly for how it's situated and located to so many great places, so many wonderful big highways.
Oh, okay. All right. And in the process, so let's go back to a little bit back to your childhood. Where were you raised?
Well, I actually grew up and was born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
And so I migrated here to New Jersey. And after living in New Jersey for about 4 years, I decided and we settled on Hillside.
All right. Now, like I said, you're a candidate.
Yes.
And you're running for the council.
That's right, council at large, along with my running mate, Marjorie, and also running on the team of Team Garrettson, Angela Garrettson, who is running for mayor of Hillside.
She's running for mayor. Okay, so now running for the council at large, mm-hmm. a lot of people, they don't. I guess maybe they don't understand. Could you explain to the viewers what the council at large, what would their role is on the city council?
Yes, well, I can see why a lot of people may not know, because sometimes, it's a bit confusing. It could seem to some people. It's comprehensive, because especially for instance, a place like Newark, New Jersey, where you have almost 250,000 people, that's a lot of people, and then you have your 5 major wards. Well, Hillside, we're not quite as big as Newark. We have about 21,000 people altogether. and we have four main wards. So like you used to take your city and kind of divide it up, or we're a town, take it and divide it up into 4 sectors, and then you have like a group of homeowners, businesses, and what have you in each different ward. Well, you have a ward council person. So that's somebody that would be there for the residents. That is someone that would be there to make sure that residents are being heard, make sure that residents' issues are being dealt with. Some place for the residents to come to when they have needs, whether it's needs dealing with public safety, whether it's needs dealing with their property taxes, whether it's needs dealing with just everyday life that in your community where you live.
Right.
And so most of the time in the ward, is someone who is a council person who pretty much knows that area. These are the people you grew up around, or people that you live around, rather. And then you have your at-large candidates. And that's the seat, one of the seats that I'm running for. And your at-large people would be someone that would be responsible for the whole town.
Oh.
And so again, so this way, just in case, the ward person, can't do everything. And so you need someone at that next level.
Oh, okay. All right. So, what is basically your educational background? Because we know a lot of our politicians. Some of them are lawyers, or some are a little bit business, but most of them we notice they're all in law and all that. What is your educational background?
Well, my first background for politics is what we call street knowledge. So basically, definitely having grown up in the community, having grown up in the projects of Cincinnati, having grown up in in the town and urban areas, and have lived also in some suburban areas as well. But my educational background is in business. So I have a human resource MBA, and I have a bachelor's in political science.
Oh, okay.
And so then I actually graduated Union County College back in 1994 with an associate's degree in public administration. So my education actually has a long history that centers around politics. And those are some of the things that I studied when I was getting those various degrees. And then I worked for, I'm not an attorney, but I did work for an attorney, so I don't know if that counts.
Yeah.
But I did work for the town attorney for Hillside 21 years ago.
Oh, okay. Now, going into the political, I always call it the political arena and all that.
It's an arena.
Yes.
I agree with you there.
Because like with me, my uncle, he was very much into politics, and I always told him I hate politics. He says everything you involve in deals with politics.
Well, he told you right.
I know he did.
What I remember from my political science degree is he told you absolutely right. When I hear people say that, I'm not into politics, and I'm like, well, do you live on the moon? Because if you live on the world, on the earth, you are part of politics. Because politics is basically how we get along, right? And the rules and the laws that are made are so that the people can do what? Get along.
Get along.
So basically, everyone is a part of politics, whether you know it or not. Now, you may choose to not be an active participant. Let's just say a person doesn't vote, or a person doesn't attend town meetings or events where politicians typically go. However, it impacts you probably even more so, because now you have to follow rules and regulations that you didn't even help to decide, or you didn't even help to decide to even put that particular politician in office.
Yeah, we know that. There's a few of us, I'm sure that, a few of the viewers, I'm sure they understand that. So who encouraged you to now, or once you stepped into politics, who encouraged you to now seek to run for this office, council at large?
Well, that's a whole nother story. But it was actually the woman who was running for mayor, Angela Garretson. She did contact me. We had a conversation, and she did tell me that she was going to be, she was a councilwoman already. She's a council at large member now in Hillside, and I know her from Leadership Newark. So
Okay.
I had already had some dealings with her. I knew something about her background. I've attended some Eggleston Institute events, and she was working there at the time and working on various major projects throughout the state of New Jersey. So when she contacted me and had talked to me about the opportunity to run for council member in Hillside, I said, okay, well, I, thought about my background. So, well, I did get that political science degree back in 1997.
So let's put it to work.
So, right. It's like, because I kept wondering, after I got that degree, I kept wondering, would I ever use that? Because I've been working in a lot of business type jobs in HR and recruiting and what have you. But all the time, ever since, say, maybe like 1987, I've been doing volunteer work in communities, mostly in Newark with some Jersey City and then some in Hillside as well. So I've really been doing volunteer work, and that's what I had to come to realization is that politics is not so much about bad politicians or what have you, but it's not so much that I'm a politician, but what I realized that I am a public servant. And once I began to run, and the first thing I had to do was get petitions signed. That's where it starts, getting your name on the ballot. So you have to knock on some doors just to do that, unless, of course, you happen to know 200 or 300 people that can just come to your home and sign a petition for you. So you have to, the first step, you have to knock on doors to get those ballots. And I noticed as I was knocking on people's doors, was like, wow, this is really what people want. They want to, people were like, come on in. These people I didn't even know. Come on in, have a seat. Let me tell you about what I think or what I feel or what I need. It's like, wow, that's really what it's all about. It's about listening to people's needs. It's about, some people just want to be heard.
Right.
And they want to know that their politicians care. And so that's why I say, it's not so much about politics, but it's really about being a public servant. And that's one of the questions people have asked me over and over. I've heard that question so many times. If you are elected, if you get in office, will you still come and knock on my door?
That's what
You're knocking on my door right now, and I appreciate that. And they have let me know, I appreciate you knocking on my door. But will you come and knock on my door later? That seems to be what's on everyone's mind. I've even had people in other states, people that know me, that know I'm running, and that said to me, I want to know, what kind of politician are you going to be? Are you going to be the type that we see you 2 or 3 weeks before election, and then we don't see you again until it's time for your re-election? And I think, wow, that's serious. A lot of people want to know that.
It is funny that you mentioned that, because it does seem sometimes like that with politicians, that once they get elected, you don't see them no more, and then all of a sudden, when it's time for to be re-elected, that's when you see them the most. That's, so sometimes it seems that way, but now that you're into the whole running around and doing everything,
Political arena.
and just tell us, like, what a typical day would be for you now in this election process.
That's interesting. Glad you asked. Well, first of all, when you get into politics, you're always thinking about your constituents. So a typical day for me is thinking about what the people of the community need. What is it that people need? Do they need speed bumps on their street because they're afraid that they live close to a highway and people are coming off that highway? Is it that flood? Sometimes I'm driving through the city and I'm like, oh, it's a flood there. But as a politician, you don't just, well, I'll just wade through the water. No, you got to stop to think, how am I going to make this, how am I going to fix this? Or, so you're always thinking about, what about jobs? People are saying, oh, I need a job, I can't pay my rent, they're about to foreclose on my house.
Okay.
So every day, that's what you wake up and you're thinking about. Or is it, the animal control? Who's going to get that possum out the middle of the street? What are we going to do about the mosquito? It's those little things you're always thinking about. What are the people in need of? And so you really have to be a people person. I don't understand any politician that is, you have to be that first, because the people need these things and they're going to come to you. Who else are they going to go to? You think about, if they call the police, well, the police are part of the town.
Right.
If they call the fire people, they're a part of the town. If they call the food bank, however you look at it, it has to be people who are about the people. Again, let's look at Storm Sandy. We're just past 1 year from that. And there are a lot of people like, is that going to happen again? You know how many people are worried about that? Is that going to happen again? And then you have the typhoon over there in the Philippines.
And then we wonder if what happens
absolutely. And are we prepared? So again, I remember when my lights went out. Actually, that's how I ran into Angela Garretson. I had not seen her in a couple of years. But when my lights went out, they were out for like 7 whole days. And I said, you know what, I'm going over to town hall. And that's what people think. going over to town hall. And I was so impressed that when I got there, that's who I saw. I mean, trees were down, people couldn't get gas, lines were long, it was starting to get cold, it was bad.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go over here and find out when, because our lights came on the day of the election. So our lights came on like later than almost everybody. And I went over there and there she was. And we started, oh, wait a minute, I know you. Oh, yeah, you're from Leadership Newer. And that's how we reconnected, was through Hurricane Sandy, Storm Sandy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, since you've been running in this political arena, do many of your do you get other calls from outside of Hillside, from other neighboring towns, or like other politicians like asking you, well, do you need any help in certain areas?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It was so beautiful, and we actually made a very nice Instagram post where we had Councilwoman Mildred Crump, we had Councilwoman Perkins from Elizabeth, and also councilperson from Irvington, Levy Jones. They came, and they really supported us, really helped us. It was so awesome. It was so nice.
Okay. Yeah, I know Mildred.
It was beautiful. I mean, so there we stood outside of our campaign headquarters, because we're still in an election. I know a lot of people have already cast their vote and they're getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner, but we had a runoff in our town. So there were there were 9 people running for council seat, and so they weren't able to get the top 3, so we had to have a runoff. And then our mayor is also the person running for mayor is in a runoff as well. So we have another election. It was close. So we have another election coming up December 3rd. So we're still in it. But it was great to have their support. It was just awesome.
Yeah. Also, because like we know when you have a lot of elections during election time, because like I said, my uncle, he was heavy to politics, and I remember, matter of fact, the first time when I actually started getting into the work industry, the first election I actually worked on was the mayor election, and it was with what's her name? Oh, Mrs. Florio. And I can't think of the other gentleman's name right now. But those two, he dragged me down to the hall to sit and make phone calls, and I'm like, wow, I want to call, make the phone calls, call the people,
because that's important. That you need that almost more than you need a whole lot of other pieces. I can absolutely say a couple of other experiences that I've had with politics was. When I was working on my associate degree in public administration, I did an internship at Congressman Frank's office. And he was a congressperson. I'm not sure exactly what district that was, but it's out there with like your Westfields, your Cranfords. So I did that with him. That was back in somewhere around 1991, 92. And then Marvin Breaker, who was Hillside Town Attorney, he did run for mayor for Hillside. Actually, he was one of the first persons to run when they got that new form of government. Because before 97, they had a different form of government where the mayor was not elected, but the mayor rotated from amongst the council people.
So how? Wait,
yes, I know. It would take a lot to kind of explain that, but a lot of people who do understand, they kind of know. But yeah, you have you elect your council people, and then from amongst them, then the person that is mayor, they would pick the mayor. But this way, the mayor has to actually run and be elected on their own. So Marvin Breaker, and I did help on his campaign. So that's when I really got to see up close and up personal. And I did attend some of the campaign fundraisers. I did attend a couple of campaign fundraisers for Dr. Mamie Bridgeforth when she ran for councilwoman.
I helped Mamie Bridgeforth on her campaign.
So those are some of the experiences that I got, and I didn't think, I never thought that I would be running for a council member, but when it did happen, and from the first door that I knocked on, it just felt natural.
Yeah, like I said, I ran, I think, like 5 times here for the Newark School Board.
Yeah, and I did run for school board for Hillside back in '98 with a gentleman who has since passed away, but Mr. Raymond Royster. We ran for school board together. I didn't get elected though.
But it is a fun.
Experience is
Yeah, the experience is real fun. And the other thing is, I remember when, like you said, knocking on the doors, passing out the leaflets.
Oh yes, picking them up after they fall down. Anyway,
Right.
and people telling you, "Please, I don't want any more mail."
Yeah, because like I said, my uncle, he was heavy, and he always
Wow.
came and dragged me out. And I remember also he worked on the Jesse Jackson
Oh yes,
campaign when he was
yes.
running for
Yes.
president, and we were
Yes. Mm-hmm.
going all over the place and things like that.
Doing the voter registration drives. I've done some of that at college, Union County College, where I attended. We did major voter registration drives during, like in the early '90s. So that was a lot of fun. So there's so many different parts to play in running for a campaign, whether you're helping out with fundraising, whether you're taking people's concerns. I mean, we had the candidates debate. The town hall was packed. People get to ask questions right there, and we were 9 candidates running for council member at large for 3 seats. There were 9 of us, and now there's 6 of us. So we'll go back, and then standing out there all day on election day. So when you said, what is a typical day? So the typical day is, having a strategic plan, having goals set, making sure that you're thinking about the future, but also dealing with the present, making sure you're managing people's perceptions of what government will do, because a lot of people, they watch the news, they watch the media, and then sometimes they form a perception of what they think politics is. So a lot of time you have to do a lot of educating people on what it's really about, what it is really down to. Have to do a lot of research.
Yes.
Have to know what is happening in your town, what's happening in your state, what are some of the services and the resources. It's a lot to it.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
And that's one thing I understood about our president. That's one thing I really noticed about our president. He really knows the history of the past, not just the president that just left off, but the presidents way back.
right.
So
That's
he
right.
understands the policies that they put in place.
You have to.
And he looks at
You have to do. And I think that's probably why so many politicians are from the field of law, because I remember when I worked for Marvin Breaker, that was one of the things that I used to ask him about his being a lawyer. What are some of the degrees that are really good for people who want to go into the field of law? And I'll never forget, he told me one of the degrees is history. And I thought, why history? I thought he would say accounting or business or what have you, but he said, because history, you as a lawyer, you always need to be able to think on your feet. And so you have to know your history, you have to know precedent, you have to know past cases. So I think the same thing with, like what you're saying with President Obama, that's one of the things that probably makes him so effective, is that he does know his history.
Yeah, that's one thing. So your day, what time do your day end? Because it's not a 9 to 5. I know that.
It's pretty much 24/7. Your day really doesn't end or start, because again, you could get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I have some experience with jobs, like before I was a store manager. And I remember one time the store had a break-in. So they had to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. I had to get dressed and get up there to the store and handle everything, deal with the police. I'm also prior military. So I was in the United States Navy back in 1980, and at one time a plane crashed near our base, on the runway, and I was a jet mechanic at that time, so we had to, you don't get to sleep. And there were days when we were stand duty for, like at least 2 shifts, at least, during those types of times. I've never been in a war, I've never been out to sea, but because when I was in the military, there was no war going on at that time that was pressing, that was calling troops to go forth. That was, like I say, in the early 80s. So yeah, you're pretty much used to it. Just like people work maybe in the medical field, and some other, police officers, fire people. So your body just kind of get used to it.
Your body, yeah.
But you got to be kind of on alert, because citizens can need you at any time. It can be a car accident. There could be some type of crime could go down in your town. So you pretty much, they're going to call you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're the one.
Yeah.
You're the one who will get the phone call.
You get a phone call. Now, do you right now, being that you're in the time of moving around and do a lot of the community people call you to sit down at their various meetings right now while you're in your election process?
Sure. Oh, sure. Still go to town meetings. I remember one of the things happened to me that I thought a guy came running over to our headquarters and he said, "There's a cat stuck in the tree and we can't get the cat down. And so could you come and try to help get this cat out of a tree?" So, I mean, yes, they still call on you even for stuff like that. And here I am. You should have seen me. I'm like, "Kitty cat, please come down." You know, I was like, "Am I really trying to get a cat out of the tree?" Sure, I really was. So, I need to follow up though to see if that cat ever came down. But
I'm sure it did. We got only a few minutes, but I meant to get this part out because you did say that Councilman, and this is the son, Councilman Payne, he did something for you?
oh, he's very supportive of Angela's team, Angela Garrison running for mayor. He supported our team. He supported her. It's been so beautiful. I mean, it's been awesome. He did a video for us that we put out on YouTube and on Facebook. So we're so excited to have that kind of support.
Okay.
So have that Democratic support. It's been a blessing. It's been awesome.
That's good. Okay, Mrs. Wilson, time. Like I told you backstage. Williams, I'm sorry.
I would let people get my name wrong, but listen,
sorry.
because of the election, I want them to go vote for Williams.
Williams.
Yes.
Time is running short. Like I told you, it was going to fly.
Yes.
And
Thank you so
once
much.
whether you win or you don't win,
Okay.
I would love for you to come back.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would love to come back. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been great.
All right. Once again, this is the Village Drum, and I'm your host, Michael Matthews. Until we meet again, may everything be blessed for you. Good night.
Curtis Mayfield had his finger on the pulse of society. Even when we as a people did not know where we were going, Curtis musically led the way. One of my favorite parts in one of his songs said, "People must prove to the people a better day is coming for you and for me." Oh yeah, yeah. All right. And then he said, "If you had a choice of colors, which one would you choose, my brothers? If there were no day or night, which would you prefer to be right? How long have you hated your white teacher? Who told you to love your black preacher? Did you respect your brother's woman friend and share with black folks not again? People must prove to the people a better day is coming for you and for me. And with a little bit more education, with love for our nation, we'll make a better society. Now some of us would rather cuss and make a fuss, oh yeah, than to bring about a little trust. But we shall overcome. I believe some